Namaskaram to all and a very good morning. So we'll start our session today. Chaturmukha samarambham Vagbhadacharya madhyamam Asmadacharya paryandam Vande Guru Paramparam Ragadirogan Satatanushaktan Asheshakaya Prasrutan Asheshan Aulsukyamo Jakhana Yohurva Vaidyaya Namostu Tasmai. So we were discussing about the types of vyadhis or classification of rogas or vikaras. That is what we were discussing in our previous sessions. And in continuation to that, that process of classifying the vikaras, today we will find a very famous or maybe the most popular vikara vibhajanam classification of the vikaras. What is that? Vagbhada in Ashtanga Sangraha Roga Bhediya tells us what is that? Subahushopi cha bhidyamana vyadhayaha nija agandudam na vibhijaranti. That is the peculiarity of this classification. Subahushaha api Subahushaha of various types. Subahushaha, not even Bahushaha, Subahushaha. So it is of various types. So we should keep all these points in mind before jumping into conclusions regarding a particular vikara on a very practical ground. All these points should be in our minds. Vikaraha subahushaha bhidyamana vyadhaya. Diseases are classified in many ways. And each classification is relevant in that particular context. So that is why we told in one of our earlier sessions that sometimes a particular clinical situation which we are addressing may be coming under different classifications of diseases, which is possible. That can happen. But still there should be a very fundamental understanding about a vikara. And that fundamental knowledge which no Vaidya should miss in the clinic, that happens. That very often happens because, see, we are living in an entirely new time when compared with our acharyas. When compared with the kala of our acharyas, we are living in an entirely different kala and desha. And still we are trying to use this information to our time and space or place, desham and kalam. So we should be very keen, we should be very alert what we are doing. What is the purpose of doing something? That is very important. Otherwise, the entire exercise becomes futile, useless. So here we find one statement, Vyadhayaha subahushaha bhidyamanaha. Still, subahushaha api bhidyamanaha vyadhayaha nijagandutatam nija agandu. This twofold classification. Nijam agandu. Nija agandudam na vyabhijarandi. Na vyabhijarandi means There is no exemption or no exception in this division. Whatever the vyadhi you treat, whatever the vyadhi you assess, no change in the fact that this will come under either nijam or agandu. This is very important. So, nija agandu tatam na vyabhijarandi. So, we should have a finer understanding, a proper understanding about what is nija vyadhi, what is an agandu vyadhi. We all have some idea about all these things. I do agree. Nijam is this one, agandu is something which is coming from outside. Okay, well and good. But more than that, can there be a deeper understanding or a subtler understanding about this? Otherwise, this makes no difference. It is something like filling a Nidanam case sheet. So, we are going to the details. Let us see what is explained in the text and what can be read between the lines. Tatra, so we understand that this is a very comprehensive or all-encompassing division where no disease is excluded, and then comes the explanation. Tatra nijaha tu doshothaha. Tatra nijaha tu doshothaha. Teshu पूर्वं वादादयः वैषम्यम् आबध्यन्ते तदो व्यथा अभिनिर्वर्तन्ते तदो व्यथा अभिनिर्वर्तते. That is how the text goes. Teshu nija vikareshu, in those nija vikaras, or that is how the nija vikara is to be marked. Teshu पूर्वं वादादयः वैषम्यम् आबध्यन्ते तदः vyatha abhinirvartate. We will see one statement after the other. So here the nature or the fundamental characteristic of nija vigara is explained. What are the terms or the words or phrases used? We will see one after the other. Nijaha dosha samutthaha. Nijaha dosha samutthaha. Samutha. Those here we find a word samutthaha, so which is indicative of the samutthanam. Samutthanam means roga karana. Samutthanam means roga karanam. So here we find dosha samutthaha. Dosha samutthaha means those for which doshas are the samuttanam or karana. Doshas are the samuttanam. Then continues, teshu, in such diseases, purvam, first, or to start with, to initiate, vadadayaha doshaha, the doshas, like vada, so need not be all together, but otherwise also is possible. One after the other, or one alone, or two together. Vaishamyam abhadyante. Vaishamyam abhadyante. Vaishamyam abhadyante means they attain Vaishamyam means that state which is departed from Samyam. That is called Vaishamyam. So they attain a state in which they are departed from the state of Samyam. What is Samyam? Samyam is that state of a dosha or doshas where it or they perform or deliver the normal activities attributed to it or attributed to them optimally. That is Samyam. Samaha swam karma kurvate. That is Samyam. That status is lost in Vaishamyam. That status is lost. That is Vadadayaha doshaha Vaishamyam abhadyante. Purvam. Purvam, to start with. That means in the beginning. tato tataha tadanandaram, thereafter, vyatha. Vyatha, pain or suffering. Abhinirvartate. Vyatha abhinirvartate, come to manifestation. Abhinirvartate, that comes to manifestation. So here, the manifestation of pain or suffering is a delayed event. It's an important business what we are discussing about. Even though it looks like very peripheral and fundamental, we should be able to go through some sort of a visualization exercise. What we are talking about, what we are trying to understand. Here, the manifestation of the vyatha or suffering is a delayed event. Any roga, as perceived or conceived by the person on the receiving end, is a form of vyatha, no doubt about it. Whatever the disease is, at the end of the day, as far as the person concerned is taken, a roga is primarily a vyatha or suffering. So here we find the vyatha comes late. Vyatha comes late. Late to what? Later than an event called dosha vaishamya. Later than an event called dosha vaishamyam, and this is a very, very important idea. As I told, looks like very primary, but this is a very basic idea. Because we will look into the details. Before the manifestation of the vyatha or the roga, its background is made ready. Its background is made ready, prepared properly, sufficient homework is done. But at that time, the interesting thing is, at that time, there need not be any of the vyatha or suffering or pain manifested. Interesting. That is very interesting. And this is where we have to connect the ideas which have learned in Sutrasthanam called Chayam, Kopam, etc. This is subtler understanding. It's a very finer understanding. That is why Sushruta reminds us Sanjayanja Prakopam Cha Prasaram Sthana Samshrayam Vyaktim Bhedam Chayo Vetti Roganam Sabhaved Bhishak. So if you want to become a Bhishak, you should be able to understand these finer aspects of this dosha gadi. So we should put all our effort. We should do all sorts of exercises, homeworks, assignments in order to understand that. So here we are discussing about a condition where there is no manifestation of roga, but all the background works are done. And we are looking into concepts called Chayam and Prakopa. This is very interesting. Vagbhada is explaining these conditions, Chayam and Prakopam, very beautifully. Extraordinarily beautiful explanation. What is that? Chayo vruddhihi. Chayaha vruddhihi. Chayam is vruddhi. Chayo vruddhihi swadhamni eva. Chayo vruddhihi swadhamni eva. Then pradvesho vruddhi hetushu viparita gunecha cha. Then kobam. Kobastu unmarga gamita linganam darshanam svesham vyatha aswasthyam roga sambhavaha. Linganam darshanam svesham aswasthyam roga sambhava. So we will see all these events once again. What is that? Chayaha vruddhihi swadhamnyeva. If you put it in a proper order, we will find swadhamnyeva vruddhihi vruddhihedushu pradveshaha viparida gunecha cha chayaha. So it is a three-phased or three-stepped explanation. What is that? Swadhamni eva vruddhi. Swadhamni eva vruddhi. Then vruddhi hetushu pradveshaha. Viparida gunecha. Viparida guna icha cha chayaha. So chayam is that form of a vruddhi of a dosha which is confined to its own locus, which is confined to its own locus and earmarked by vruddhi hedushu pradveshaha viparida gunechaja, means showing an aversion or despite towards those factors which favor the vruddhi. An aversion towards those factors which favor the vruddhi. Oh, there is a comment called the voice is not heard. I'm not audible. Can somebody say a reply by the chat box? Am I audible or not? Please. Yes, okay. So that may be a technical problem with that delegate. Okay, fine. Yes, I'm continuing. So, yes. So, there is an aversion towards those factors which are causing that vruddhi and an unusual inclination or desire towards viparita guna. Towards viparita guna. He is trying to explain this in a different context. What is that? Kurvatehi rujim doshaha viparita samanayoho vruddhaha kshinascha. Kurvatehi rujim doshaha rujim kurvate. How? Vruddhaha kshināha cha doshaha viparita samanayoho rujim kurvate. And he wants abudhaha tu tad na lakshayanti. So if you are not a keen vaidya, a keen observer of events happening in the sharira, you will miss this. You will not take this into consideration in your assessment, which is a grave mistake. So the fundamental training that every clinical student should get is to observe. Don't judge. Don't be judgmental about this is an important sign, this is not important. This is an important feature, that is less important. Give equal weightage to everything. Kurvatehi rujim doshaha viparita samanayoho vruddhaha kshināha cha lakshayantya budhaha natad. So here in the stage of dosha chaya, we find some sort of an aversion towards the vruddhi hetu and an inclination towards the viparita guna. So in this stage, there is an attempt to self-correct from the side of the dosha or doshas. We should be very keen. Sometimes we will start treating it. We will start treating an attempt of the body to self-correct. So this is a very instinctive attempt. Swabhavo Brahma. Body is trying to correct itself by making some sort of an environment, ambience inside or within. So an instinctive effort of a system, any system will show this. It is not confined to the body. Any system will do it. And instinctive, it is instinctive, swabhava. So an instinctive effort of a system to correct itself so as to establish sort of stability and sustenance within. That is the beauty of the way in which it is explained. We should not overlook this. Body is putting all its efforts to sustain in the stage of that well-being. And here we find that doshaha kurvante. So what happens? We attribute this instinctive effort as the sole responsibility of doshas, as the sole responsibility of the dosha. That is what the fundamental rule is. But for all clinical purposes, for all practical purposes, as a clinical student, we should see this event from a different angle. True that this is fundamentally an attribute of dosha or doshas, but in the finest sense of understanding, you should understand, you should make it a point that the real credit of this exercise effort goes to ojas. The real credit goes to ojas. This is an event hosted and executed by ojas, which we perceive in the form of balam. That is the importance of assessing the individual, the Atura Pariksha. That is the importance of Adura Pariksha. At this point, actually, we should go across the textbooks and find the details of the Roga Bhishadjidiyam Vimanam. How the Adura Pariksha, the Desha Pariksha, Desha, Adura is the Desha actually. So how that Adura Pariksha or Desha Pariksha, all these things are explained. We will come to it, definitely. As I told earlier, we have no hurry. We will be moving very slowly. So, this attribute, this effort of a system to self-correct and to continue to be in the wellness or in the swasthyam is a finer effort of ojas, which we perceive, how the ojas is perceived fundamentally in the form of balam. So that way, the integrity of dhadus, we know that ojas is something related with the integrity of dhadus. So the integrity of dhadus, you may call it as dhadu balam, like agni balam or sattva balam. One important understanding that we should have is about dhadu balam, or you may call it in a different shade of meaning as saram. So the concept of dhadu balam or saram is going to be of critical importance at this point. And among the dhadus, among the sapta dhadus, rakta dhadu, the one which is responsible for or ascribed with jivana dharmam, is to be counted with more importance. That is where we have to understand the prinanam, jivanam, leba, that jivana dharma of rakta dhatu. Because of the jivana dharmam, rakta dhatu plays a critical role in preventing the vriddhi slipping to the progressive stages. Preventing a dosha vriddhi to the progressive stages. So, dhadu balam in general is of critical importance, and among the dhadus, sapta dhadus, rakta dhadu gains more importance considering the fact that it is doing the jivana dharma. So, with that intention, we assign the status of ojas to rakta. Rakta is many a times can be seen as explained as ojas. Why? Actually, it is not exactly what ojas is. Ojas is a more comprehensive term. But we can find that when we explain the sira or dhamani, rasatmagam vahandi ojaha, That rasatmaga ojas is nothing but rectum. So we assign the status of ojas to recta itself. We don't find that ojas, mamsam explained as ojas, or medas explained as ojas, or asti explained as ojas. But rectum is explained as ojas. Why? Because of the jivana dharma, and it is that dhatu which is delivering the duty of preventing the system from slipping to morbidity. So next time when you give a requisition slip to some Rakta Pariksha to an authorized laboratory, see it in a different light. Whenever you are seeing, going through the counts, okay, complete blood count or that one, this one, X, Y, Z, start to see it in a different perspective of something like which deals with the Rakta Dhadu. Of course, that rectum is not Rakta Dhadu. That is a different story. We will come to it later. So, with that intention, we assign the status of ojas to Rakta, and we can propose that way a term called Rakta Sambat. As we call, we explain different Sambat like the Pada Sambat or Stanya Sambat or whatever it is. Here we use a term Rakta Sambat, which can represent the richness or abundance of Rakta Dhadu in terms of quality and quantity, reflecting an idea of the integrity of Rakta Dhadu, Jivana Dhadu, which in turn should be a representation of the entire Dhadu Sambat. So, in short, or to sum up, the capacity of a Sharira to self-correct in the early stages of a disease process, which is mostly a hidden activity, is directly connected with the capacity of the involved dosha or doshas to generate and establish the sort of pradvesho vritti hedushu and viparita gunecha cha. I am repeating, the capacity of a sharira, comfortably, the capacity of a sharira to self-correct in the early stages of a disease process, which need not be visible outside, is directly connected with the capacity of the involved dosha or doshas to generate and establish the sort of pradvesho vritti hedushu and viparita gunecha. And further, this is an attribute of the ojas, which is manifested as balam, and hence dhadu balam, a concept called dhadu balam, is going to be of critical importance, because ojas is a direct and primary function of the dhadus. So while dealing with Nija Rogas, we should have all these ideas in our mind. In Jwara Chikitsa, we find the advice to do Lankhanam. But how to do the Lankhanam? Balam yatnena palayan. Balam yatnena palayan. Why? Baladhishtanam arogyam. That is a towering statement. It's a bold statement. Baladhishtanam arogyam. Arogyam is something which has its footing or seating or adhishtanam on balam. Now you may split the arogyam to many small pieces, doesn't matter. Na rogaha, yasya saha arogaha, arogasya bhavaha, arogyam, fine. So arogyam is something which is seated in balam. So the capacity to prevent the progression of a roga is also connected to balam. So the manifestation of pradvesho vritthihedushu and viparita gunecha is also connected to balam. So we will come to the kopam avastha. We are just going through the chaya avastha of a dosha where this pradvesho vritthihedushu viparita gunecha cha, where in the nijaroga there is vikriti of tridoshas or doshas, later vyatha abhinirvartate is going to be seen in a brighter light or a clearer ambience. That we will see in our next session. We will not stop into cuts and pieces, or we will not break it into cuts and pieces and leave many pieces unattended. We will take all these pieces one after the other, and we will discuss them in our next sessions. There is one question from Dr. Reena. Let us know. Sorry, just a minute, I missed it. Let us know how to understand aparipakvada of dhadu in the context of bala or ojas, especially in balyavastha. Yes, we will come to it. Actually, that these questions are very valid and important, but I cannot take them for immediate discussion because that will break the follow of the topic what we are dealing with. But definitely I'm copying these questions down and we will be discussing it when that context comes. Otherwise, we will be breaking away from what we are supposed to discuss sequentially. So kindly excuse me for that. Definitely, I'll be noting this question and we will be discussing it. There are a few more questions left unanswered. We will look into that. So with that, we are concluding today's session. We will meet again on Saturday morning. Thank you very much. Bhishajam sadhu vrittanam bhadram agamasalinam abhyastakarmanam bhadram bhadrabhilashinam.